So today I'm going to talk to you about the puzzle of pellagra and how it was solved. Pellagra is a disease that was in Italy and Spain in 1735, but today it's almost unheard of in the world. And it was a killer. It was called in its time mal de la rosa, the disease of the redness or roughness, because it is generally described as appearing of a reddening of the skin. The disease was not confined to Spain and Italy. Indeed, the word pellagra itself is derived from an Italian word meaning rough skin. And let me show you what pellagra looks like. Just turn off the lights for a second. Now what you see in this picture is this roughening or reddening of the skin on the hands. You also see it on the neck region. This is the abdominal region of somebody who has a kind of a big belly, and you notice that there's this distinct reddening of the skin. And that, of course, gives that, can't get it in focus. Maybe, okay, that's about as good as it's going to get. And then here's another. This shows the tongue, a kind of blackening of the tongue, which is not shown very well here on the left-hand side. And then there are this dermatitis, an inflammation of the skin in this person on the elbows. These are diagnostic signs of this disease, pellagra. Now, pellagra is, as I've shown you, indicated by a pigmentation of the skin, a thickening of the skin, especially on the hands and the feet and the neck. But there are other changes, as I've shown you. The tongue is reddened and sometimes even blackened. Now, the afflicted individual has a burning sensation in the mouth and also has diarrhea. But most significantly, the individual also suffers from mental retardation or dementia. So this disease is characterized by three characteristics, all beginning with D: a dermatitis, a diarrhea, and most significantly, a dementia. So the symptoms of this disease are referred to frequently under this 3D. Now, this disease was so widespread in Italy in the 1780s that in some communities, 1/6 of the entire population, the peasants in particular, suffered from this disease and died from it. And in the 1800s, the disease was recorded in France and in Austria, Romania, Greece, and even in Egypt. And by the end of 1909, pellagra was an endemic disease in the southern part of the United States. It was reported from 26 states in the U.S. And although it probably existed before that, this epidemic occurred in the early 1900s in the southern part of the United States. By 1909, there were 100,000 cases in states south of the Mason-Dixon line. By 1916, it was the second cause of death in places such as South Carolina, in Mississippi, in Alabama, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. It killed 4,000 people per year. And this alarming spread of pellagra in the South became a national concern. Now, the agents, or agent, responsible for pellagra were unknown at this time. When I was assigned by the Public Health Service to be in charge of an investigation into the causes of this horrible disease. I'm terribly sorry I'm getting carried away with this disease without introducing myself. But I'm a bit obsessed with pellagra since my pellagra studies occupied 15 years of my life. I'm Dr. Joseph Goldberger, a physician in the U.S. Public Health Service. Most of you have probably never heard of me before today, since no one today ever thinks of pellagra as an important disease, largely because it has been virtually eliminated around the world and in the southern part of the United States. I was born in Hungary and came with my parents to this country at the age of 7. My father was a grocer on the Lower East Side of New York, and we lived in what you would call today a ghetto. I lived with my parents, who were hard-working immigrants, and they had no opportunity to gain an education. They never learned to either speak or write English. They lived in this immigrant world, and the only language that they conversed in was Yiddish. Though poor, they were quite devoted to their children, and they devoted themselves to supporting the education of their children. I was their prodigy, and as a result, I didn't have to leave school early, as did my brothers and sister. I didn't have to help out in the grocery store because I was the student. I was an excellent student, and when I finished grammar school, Public School 5 in New York City, I was an avid reader, of course. I told my parents that I wanted to go to study civil engineering at City College in New York. You may be interested to know that that's the same college that your Professor Sherman went to. And my parents made great sacrifices for me. And at the end of my second year, when I was 18, I was 5th highest in a class of 600. And at City College, that was really pretty good. And then, as so often happens in life, a chance occurrence changed everything for me. One of my friends living in the neighborhood was at that time attending Bellevue Hospital Medical School. And he invited me to attend a lecture. This lecture was by a Dr. Austin Flint. And at the end of this lecture, which was mesmerizing because Flint was quite a lecturer, I went down to meet this lecturer, Dr. Flint. I told him that I wanted to enter school to study civil engineering. And he said, I think you'd be better fit for medicine. So I